I'm gonna do this in one take. Instagram was never the issue. You are. You always have been. You're probably witnessing firsthand the negatives of an app like Instagram, social media, TikTok, whatever. And perhaps you're allured by the idea of deleting it. I tried that. I did it for 2 months, and I ended up reinstalling it. And I'm gonna explain exactly why. Okay. Because I keep seeing these kind of videos coming up in my For You page about this dopamine detox. I didn't have any kind of stimulation for 2 months. Here's how productive I was. Here's all the things I achieved. And there's a really, really dangerous trap that you could fall into here if you don't understand what's going on here. So I'm going to explain to you as someone who's actually tried this. I have a decent amount of data, 2 months of not having Instagram, and I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth it. Okay. There's two main issues with deleting Instagram. The first issue is that you lull yourself into a false sense of productivity. So you think you're accomplishing something just by the mere act of deleting the app that you see as kind of poisonous, dopaminergic, not beneficial, which it is. Like, don't get me wrong. A lot of, like, of course, Instagram preys on your worst aspects, you know? So your need for a constant dopamine hit, your lust, your sense of validation, whatever. That's very much true. But you need to recognize that those issues are still within you. They're not from the app inherently. Okay, so that's one thing. That's one thing that is dangerous. And the second thing is that deleting Instagram is just not like fucking practical, right? Deleting Instagram is kind of essentially the equivalent of deciding that you don't want to learn the language. Like, let's say you move to a foreign country. Let's say you're from an English speaking country and you move to Spain, and you like have this kind of English superiority complex, and you think, no, I'm English, I don't want to learn Spanish. I live in Spain, but I'm going to keep speaking. Some people actually do this, by the way. So it's the same kind of mentality that you'll see in this as you will see in other places, right? I'm going to keep speaking English, even though, like, so clearly everything around my life, everything around me is in Spanish. Everyone around me interacts in Spanish, but I'm too stubborn to learn Spanish, so I'm going to speak English. And not only am I too stubborn to learn Spanish, but I'm going to look down on others who speak Spanish. Not in the sense that, like, I think I'm better than them because I don't speak Spanish and I speak English only, but in the sense that inherently by not learning their language, what you're essentially saying is, I'm separate. I'm not part of this. And you can't you can't really do this. It's just stupid. So you can, when these two things pair together is when they're the most dangerous, right? Because you can think you're being productive by not having Instagram or TikTok or something like this. But on the one hand, you can think you're being productive and you're socially detached because you need to face the reality of the world nowadays. Whether you like it or not, Instagram and social media is a huge part of social mechanics, social dynamics, interactions. That's just how it is. You know, whether you like that, like, it doesn't matter what your opinion is on it. That's just the fucking facts. So you have two options. You can either learn the language, the metaphorical language of 21st century social dynamics through Instagram and get as fucking good as possible with that, or you can refuse to play the game out of some kind of moral superiority complex because people that use dopaminergic apps are just scrolling all day and blah, blah, blah. You've heard it all before, right? And I'm gonna explain how I came to these conclusions. Because like I said, I'm not just talking out my ass here. This is not just theory, right? That's another thing with a lot of these videos of people that will be telling you about dopamine detox or reading or, oh, I hate how everything's online nowadays. You've heard this kind of archetype before, right? If you're watching this kind of video, I'm assuming you're familiar with this kind of sentiment and these kind of people, and you may even be leaning in that direction. Yeah, but a lot of these people are essentially going to be explaining things in a rational sense. And that sounds like a good thing, right? So if I'm explaining something rationally, that's good, obviously. I have the charts, I have the figures, I have this, I have that. Like, I can explain it to you logically in steps. But the problem with that is that I don't need to actually have experience of that thing to explain that to you. I could have just easily, right now, made a video explaining dopamine and explaining neurology and how your brain works on Instagram, etc., etc., etc. But that would be disingenuous because, sure, it makes logical, rational sense, but that's not my actual fucking experience, is it? And this is what a lot of people tend to do. They use logic and rationality too early, and then come to false conclusions that don't actually line up with their intuitive view about something. And that's what I'm attempting to not do in this video, right? So because I've actually experienced this, I went 2 months without. Let me actually talk about that, okay? So firstly, why did I do that? I did that for a couple of reasons. Obviously, like I said, the negative Instagrams. For me, I had two options, right? I was obviously experiencing the negatives. I didn't like the negatives. And scrolling was the big one. Scrolling kind of drains your mental ability while also literally draining actual time in the day. And one thing that I will say to anyone that's listening to this is that deleting Instagram will do one really, really good thing, and that's break your habits, right? It will change your habits. If you force yourself into a new way of living, you will stop doing things that you usually did beforehand. So scrolling now, I reinstalled Instagram. Do I scroll anymore? No. Very, very rarely do I ever scroll. And if I do, it's for like 2 minutes and I catch myself doing it. Why? Because I didn't scroll for 2 months. It stopped being a habit. Does that mean that by reinstalling Instagram that perhaps I'm more susceptible to scrolling again? That's entirely possible. But that's why there's the other issue, the other key issue that I mentioned there, and that is social dynamics. Okay, so the way a lot of people live their lives nowadays simply just isn't the way that we used to, right? So you can try and be healthy and not be chronically online, etc., etc. But the world is actively fighting against you doing that. What I mean by this is you can try and kind of live this caveman life, or not caveman life, but the kind of primal ancestral life where you're being social still, like you're making friends in real life and you're having real interactions with real people. But that only works so far as the rest of the people around you are willing and capable to do that. Okay, so, and we don't live in a society today, at least in the West. Maybe, like, I don't know, if you fucking live in somewhere else, it will be different. But from my experience living in the UK, people are busy. People aren't really busy. That's another video. I'll explain that at some point. But people are always doing one of like three things. They'll be either at home, so like eating or sleeping. They'll be at work, or one other place, so gym, football, whatever. There's not really just a lot of downtime or time where no one's really doing anything in particular as much, right? It still happens, of course, every so often, but it's actively fought against. Like, not, how do I say this, right? So the structure of most, like by design, the structure of most people's days are such that I start my day here in my room, and then I go to the gym, and then I go to the library, and then I come back to my room, and then I go onto social media. Like, that's how it's structured, right? It's not structured such that it's spontaneous and random, and you go into the big crowd where the whole fucking tribe is gathering around the fire, and then you just start talking about things. Like, that might happen every so often, but it's not common part of day to day. So with that being the case, you can't apply primitive solutions to modern problems. Okay, so the dopamine detox thing, it makes sense logically because it's kind of healthier cognitively, or it's more in line with primal physiology or something like this, but it doesn't actually work practically. So what ends up happening is that you're just basically lonely. Like, think about this. Think about if you removed social media from your day right now, how would your day actually look? Fine, you go to school, work, wherever. You go to maybe the gym. You talk to the people at school or work. You talk to people in the gym. And then you maybe every so often, if you're not like in your room by yourself, talk to the fucking random, postman or something. Like, you're just going to end up not talking to anyone. And that is far more harmful than any effect that Instagram could have on you. So what's the solution then? Obviously, there are massive issues with Instagram. There's a reason I deleted it in the first place, scrolling being the main one. Things like lust being another huge one. And the problem is that you need to fix these things outside of Instagram itself, right? So you need to find a different vice for the same kind of thing. Like I said, if this thing exists within you, it doesn't go away by you uninstalling Instagram. That's something I learned, right? If you have a constant need for dopamine hits, and that's being satisfied through Instagram, removing Instagram doesn't satisfy the hunger. It's really fucking basic. Okay, so I was watching the end of that back, and honestly, I kind of started waffling a little bit. So I'm just going to really clearly say exactly what my conclusion was and what I'm going to start doing from now on, and what I think you should start doing as well if you have made it to this point in the video. I decreased the negatives of Instagram as much as I possibly could while still utilizing all the maximum benefits of the app. The fact that you are connected to hundreds, thousands of people from all over the globe is genuinely a very powerful thing, and something that you cannot ignore. Again, like I said, with modern social dynamics, the way that real face-to-face interaction is very much limited by the structure of how most people's days are today, without trying to fix society or some shit. Like, sure, I think that's bullshit. Sure, I think people are way less busy usually than they say they are. Sure, I think that, people are just coping and they're actually lazy. And when someone says that, oh, I don't have time to go to the gym, even though there's 24 hours in the day and they only have one. Okay, this is kind of how I was waffling before. Anyway, the point is, to maximize the benefits while breaking all those habits, those bad habits. The way I did that was by uninstalling Instagram for 2 months and then reinstalling it. The only thing I would change is that when I uninstalled Instagram, I wouldn't go into that thinking like this is it. I wouldn't go into that thinking this is going to be a good thing, that like I don't want to have Instagram anymore. I actively dislike the app itself. I would go into that thinking instead, I am breaking habits. I'm going to train myself such that I can come back and use the positives of this app while not being drawn into the negatives. Okay, and the positives of the app are very clear, like I just mentioned. So in fact, join me. This is my invitation from me to you to join me in maximizing the benefits of the app Instagram, of building a community, of being able to interact with people from across the globe in different places at different times. I'm going to leave a link to my Instagram down below, my new Instagram. You can follow me on there. You can DM me on there. We're going to grow a community on there. Subscribe to keep seeing more analysis like this. Like the video so more people can see it. All the standard YouTube stuff. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a nice day.